This tutorial is the second part of the movement series. So in this tutorial, we're going to do what I call look walk. And look walk is when you walk by looking. And so the best way that I've experienced this is when you look down past a certain angle, you'll move, and when you look back up, you'll stop moving. So when the rotation of the head goes to a certain angle, we're going to say move. And then whenever the gaze comes back up from that angle, we're going to stop moving. This is really easy to set up. The first thing I'm going to do is bring in the Google VR SDK 0.9. And in the Google VR prefabs folder, there should be a GVR viewer main. We'll bring that into here. And that gives us a working VR camera. Now I'm going to create a terrain. Okay, so I have some terrain, and it has a terrain collider on it. So the player can respond to physics on that. On the main camera, I'm going to add a character controller. And then on the character controller, I want it to be a height of 2 because that's a good height for a character. So that's what it's set at already, but the camera's right in the middle, so I'm going to make the offset a little bit, not 1, but -1. There we go. That way the camera is right at the top of the character's head. Okay, now we can add the script. We're going to call it VR Look Walk. And open it up for editing. And this is a really easy script to write because all we're doing is looking at the main camera's transform rotation value on the X. And when the player's looking straight forward, the X is at 0. But if you start to look down, the X increases. And if you're looking straight down, you're looking at 90 degrees straight down. The editor caps you at 85 degrees. But when you're in VR, you can look all straight down is 90 degrees down. So all we have to do is watch for that rotation value and start moving based on that. So to make this work, we're going to use a public transform for the VR camera. We're going to need an angle, and I'll call this toggle angle, when we want to toggle the movement to start moving and to stop moving. And it seems like a good value for this is 30 degrees. So if you start tilting your head down, when you get the X value to 30, that seems like a good point to start moving. Of course, we're going to make it a public value so that if you want to modify that for your game, you can. So we're going to say public, this is a float value, toggle angle, and because it's a float, we're going to say 0.0f. And then we're also going to need a speed so that we can determine how fast we want the player to go. So we'll say 3.0f for the speed. And we're also going to want a bool to know whether or not we should move forward. We're going to need to access the character controller that we added. And I'm going to make that private since we can populate it automatically. So to populate the CC variable, we can say CC is equal to get component, and we're going to find the character controller. And that'll work because that character controller is on the same game object that the look walk script is on. So now that we've found the character controller, we're ready to do all of our coding. We could populate these vars so that we understand what they are. The VR camera is the main camera, of course. We already have set a toggle angle.